Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming to you from the heart of Trekland here through Portal 47 for the clarity and sanity and big picture in all things Star Trek that you deserve. This week, I'm asking the next Star Trek desert. And you, I guess I'm telling. What did you do in the big Star Trek desert, Daddy? Yeah. Hey, look, if you're just joining us the first time, welcome to Trekland Tuesdays Live. Everybody's coming into the chat here. Feel free to jump in there, too. If you're a veteran, you know what to do. I'm going to talk here on my soapbox for a minute, and then we'll take a midway break, and we will dive into the Parrot Analytics U.S. Top 10 streaming ratings. And then I'll get to the chat. We'll have a great conversation then. That's for everybody, unless you're watching us later on YouTube and we cut at the break. Otherwise, on Facebook later or right now live, join in and say your howdies and all that. Hey, yeah, look, what will you do in the great Star Trek desert? Now, it's obviously not the same as, has it settled in yet? Do you get the idea? It's been a couple of weeks now since Discovery had its finale for season 3. And you get it now, right? That there are miles and miles, or Kelly cams and Kelly cams ahead of us of empty, no new Star Trek, which we're kind of spoiled. That whole 23 new weeks of Star Trek was a spoiler, because otherwise you're getting into the habit of 9 months until a new season comes along. Now, adding up shows, people who were worried about there being too much Star Trek kind of are still living in 1994, because we're not talking 26-week seasons. We're talking 10 or 12 or 13 or 14-week seasons, and they don't overlap the shows. They don't overlap the series. So how do you get burned out with totally different concepts and characters if that happens? So we may get to that point, but for right now, that's not going to happen. And yeah, we did get spoiled for 2 different series unspooling that. We're going to be hurting here with the pandemic slowing down. We've just had word that, as we were kind of figuring, Jerry Ryan seems to be the one confirming this, but the February start, as I heard in the grapevine too, has been bumped back just with the pandemic situation here in LA. And we're talking Picard here. Toronto is a different bubble. They've been at it for a while on their new season. Picard is slowing down, but everything has to be done. Everything is so slowed. You have so many more hoops to jump through with all the protocols for shooting live, and then all your post processes that are being converted over, right? Some things are natively done that way now, art, visual effects, but other things, not so much. So we are looking at weeks and weeks and weeks here. When will Prodigy pop up, though? Later this year. That may be our next best hope for something new. Season 2 of Lower Decks, maybe. Same thing, animation, but we'll see. But one thing we know right now, it's going to be months before we see anything. Maybe summer. I'm just talking. Late spring would be wonderful, but I just don't think that. I'm just not thinking that. So here we are. That leaves us with not the fallow years. Yeah, I mean, it's not 2015. Or even 1975. We know it's coming this year, probably. But still, for you folks that have been spoiled, that's an awful lot. For the week-to-week drama kings, that's an awful long time to get through without having something to talk about. What will you do? Huh? Look, we've got, thank goodness, pandemic time. We have virtual cons, virtual shows and events. Although, we're still waiting to hear about how the summer cons are going to go, the way things are headed around here. I've seen some friends at live conventions now, and I just hold my breath and pray. I don't think that's a good idea. I do know that, they haven't announced formally, but I do know that WonderCon here, the little brother of big San Diego Comic-Con here in the LA area, Orange County now again, they are juggling, but leaning toward probably being virtual by the end of March. I don't say they can be live. San Diego hasn't announced yet. All the big Star Trek Las Vegas is plunging right ahead for August. We fingers crossed. People missed it last year. People would love to go back. The years are so uncertain right now. Who knows? It could be the last year. But so that's doubly down why we want that. My homies in Oklahoma City have definitely for late June postponed SoonerCon to next year. They've just gotten it over with. Other conventions I'm seeing pop up. I mean, Gallifrey here in LA. And I'm very schedule centric here from my schedule, but you know what I mean, around the country. The bottom line here is that virtual cons are going to be carrying the load for a while. So good on GalaxyCon, still doing events. Good on some of the other promoters out there doing it. And apparently the big cons are gearing up for that too. But yeah, we've got virtual. And hey, let me do a shout out to Virtual TrekCon. We talked about RIP Richard Arnold last week, and apparently Richard's appearance for Virtual TrekCon 2 last fall was his last guest appearance. So good on you guys for getting Richard. His health was just starting to decline again. Anyway, we were glad to have him on the Trek Files a few times in 2018. So I've posted those episodes, so give them a look. But yeah, okay. So you got virtual cons. Pretty. You got things like Sid City from Sid. I mean, people are. Gates is doing her podcast. People are doing podcast appearances. A lot of folks. This week, I'll tell you later. But hey, we got. He's been all over the place. He's so funny. He's so exciting. But for our slant on things. Noah Averbach-Katz is, I was going to say Noah Ocasio-Cortez, which would be funny if I ever actually said that out loud. No, we've got Noah Wren from Discovery Season 3 as our guest on Trek Files this week. So you want to check that out. So you're going to see lots of people doing lots of virtual events. This is Black History Month. And we live in a time when we have so many more Star Trek personalities, actors, and creatives who can speak to Black History Month, aside from Nichelle, Avery, and Sirach. On down the line, but good on that, Michael LeVar. We have a whole new crop of folks, and that's lovely and overdue. So yes, we're going to see folks virtually. There'll be virtual opportunities. But again, what about you? How are you taking up the desert time? Are you crafting? Are you working on cosplay, showing it off on your Instagram or your Twitter or your Facebook? Are you cosplaying? Are you doing artwork? Oh, we've got so many fan artists are springing up now. Professional and not. A lot of the fan artists are so good, they will not be fan artists for long if they can find their way. And friends at CBS Licensing have, if they keep that name with the name changes coming down the line, they're going to be, or CBS Consumer Products, excuse me. They're finding ways for micro creators, to do licensed work. So more of these art folks you may see. Are you doing props? Are you building models? Are you, are you composing music? I've started to see fan composers popping up. And of course, what we've always had from day one, what built Star Trek, what built media fandom, what built Comic-Con world. Are you doing any fan fiction writing? Are you shipping anybody from here to there? There is all that, right? And of course, the good old, what the economy loves you to do, are you buying? Hey, there's so many good books. We spotlighted a lot of books, nonfiction books, as well as the novels coming out across all the Star Trek realms. And of course, we've still got, you can still get your, magazines, right? Some folks have been connected to that for quite a while too. Over 20 years at times, I hear. So they're still reading, right? You could buy books. And hey, there's always toys. Action Mego is coming out with figures. And every month there's new pins from Fansets. Not this one. This is my own. But yeah, Fanset pins are so much fun. So shout out to John and Lou there and all their fun bunch. They're, and that's lighting up social media and giving us heart. That's filling up the gap here. We've got a long road of no new Star Trek ahead of us. And not that we're not used to that. We've just gotten spoiled. What will you do in the fallow time between now and the next new Star Trek? There is one more thing. Well, there's probably more than one thing. How about a rewatch? Your own, or maybe a group one. Maybe you get your group organized, or maybe you've got a buddy or a budette, and you're doing one together, whether you're in a pod together or you're doing it long distance in a group with all the tools that have popped up here in the pandemic to do virtual. But a rewatch, whether you do it as a group or yourself. We did one mini. We rewatched Picard. I mean, over a couple of nights to make it easy and maybe soak in a little better. Here's my challenge, right? So many people have done so many rewatches for so long anyway to fill up the time. In lieu of kind of my brand, here's one. How about you do a rewatch that's not a same-o for you, right? How about you rewatch, and I know for 7 seasons times 26 episodes, this is a big deal, but you got a few months here. How about you at least start a rewatch of a Trek that you didn't really care about the first time around? I'm curious what you think. Hey, Twitchers, by the way, no, I'm not ignoring you. I will get to chat after our midway break, okay? Just as a reminder. And everybody else, too. Goes for you, too. But did I get you to thinking? Maybe a Trek you did not care about. Hey, and if you can take advantage of a CBS All Access, freebie offer to binge in a week, maybe a month. I don't know what they're going to be doing. And they're going to be changing the name officially March 4th. They're already transitioning the branding. So be alert for free offers there. But maybe tackle one you didn't particularly care for, especially the further back you go. Do opinions change just in 2 years, 3 years? Maybe so. There was an awful lot of Discovery that was rough to take. And I mean production-wise. I don't mean cinematic, beautiful, gorgeous-looking visual effects. I mean just, timing, pacing, editing, flow. Because we know it was the problem. It was the problem birth. It had a troubled birth, but it's grown stronger as it's grown older. So, maybe a freebie. And, maybe you do shell out $5 or $10 for a month to binge something. I mean, the modern shows are really all still wimpy half seasons anyway. When you say 3 seasons of Discovery, it's really only a season and a half in the other ways. Yeah. Because you remember, we've tried to say this over and over again, but it bears repeating. You had to live through it. There were lots of folks who did not care for the Next Generation in the beginning, coming from the context Kingsley made of where they'd been with the original series. Same thing with DS9, the crazy show that's so hard to keep up with. It's on at 2 a.m. half the time. Or poor Voyager, which didn't have Klingons and Romulans in it, and Cardassians. And of course Enterprise. You can skip the song and not let it have it ruin your whole night if that's still a thing. Or maybe you give the song a second chance. But looking at all the older series, and yes, Discovery and Picard, it's had time to settle in. You've got time to adjust to the changing ways of media, the new paradigm landscape of story writing and storytelling. Given all of that, and yes, more context, all you would-be kings out there, given all of that you've known and seen and lived through and now deal with in a pandemic world, one of those series, they just might strike you differently. Hey, I'll just say this, our Picard rewatch, now, better half had not watched it week to week anyway, but me watching it, I was fine either way, but I get the idea that Picard goes down much easier as a binge watch, when it really is a book with chapters that you read one after the other. It probably goes down easier, even knowing now what's to come. It does flow along. The angsty teenage incest twins parts don't seem so dominant. They seem to be more like minor scenes than something I have to sit through for 10 minutes. And that's nothing against either of the actors, obviously. It's just those always just stuck out to me. That was my least enjoyable part of Picard, were those scenes. And they were, the beginnings and the end of the arc. were better. It was the stuff in the middle that seemed tokenly teen black angsty, dark angsty to me. Anyway, but that's my opinion. Picard went down much better. I've also even heard some people opine that Picard's the first time they'd wish a Star Trek had been released all at once to encourage that. But I know it's better. It's still better bang for the buck wise to have it to talk about every week. It's just when people go insane in their week-to-week analysis. And you know what? The week-to-week is over soon enough. And then we look at all of these shows and say, but what will we think about it? Or this is what I do anyway. What will we think about it in a year? What will we think about it in 5 years? In 10 years? In 20 years? When it's at the same podium, the same plateau that all the other former shows are at. Because they too have changed. So yeah, I'm glad to see whatever. Maybe I've stirred something up here. Maybe not. Maybe you've got a better topic, but I'm going to be looking forward to seeing what everybody is saying here in the live chat comments. And if you're watching us later on Facebook or YouTube, the comments will be along there later. Just to say, if you catch us quick on Twitch, they're there too. Twitch and YouTube have the entire stream. If you're watching us later on Facebook, sadly, you're only seeing the Facebook comments in the chat preserved. That's the bulk. That's 3/4 of the comments at least. But the entire transcript is always on YouTube. Please go over, like and subscribe us and share on YouTube. We were late to the party for YouTube, but we're there now. So I'd love it if you're watching and you stumble in and do that. Okay? Hey, I want to do a big shout out. Let that dwell. Dwell on that. Think about that. And while you're saying that, I do want to thank all of my growing list of Patreon folks. We've got the TTL Club. Thank you, Blaze K, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd. Yes, let's hold it steady, Larry. Hey, Ed Marie Siegel, Blake Arledge, Justin Portios, and Nathan Robinson. Thank you guys for being on our $5 level and our $10 level a month. Our live wires. Hey, Rusty Harold, Jared Cooper, Eli Irwin, Gary Williamson, Jay Lynn Bullock, Halbeard Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, and Casey Shafsky. Oh, and Dan, I did get you in. I've got to do a new sign. I just barely remembered. Yes. Thanks, guys. If you want to do that too, it's at patreon.com where folks support their creatives. They want to help across all forms of creativity. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. I have a very simple platform, just $5 and $10 a month. A shout out each week. And the $10 folks, I need to do this with the new year, get access to some of our first generation Portal 47. Yay. Our first generation of Portal 47 behind the scenes interviews. Other than that, guys, hey, I mentioned this week on the Trek Files, join us for a talk about Dorothy Fontana's original Andorian memo with Noah Averbach-Katz. We'll have him back a few times too, but this week it's a great start. And of course, Life Support Live is Sundays live on these very same Trekline channels you're watching right now. We're there live at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. And of course, later on all these same channels too. Going boldly through uncertain times with Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek. One of us is a real doctor. Happy birthday belated to Dr. Ali yesterday. And of course, otherwise, it's where you are on YouTube. That's it on Facebook. On Twitter, at Larry Nemecek. My Facebook is my Instagram, Larry Nemecek's Trekland. And if you're curious about how we do this all year long, I've got a lot of portales here. Today, our Portal 47 is there at portal47.net. Take a look at that. We'd love to have you with us. Well, that's going to do it for us. If you're on Facebook right now, we're going to say goodbye. Feel free to join us live any week if you're watching us later. Otherwise, here live and on Facebook, I will be right back after this break. But of course, as always, guys and gals, hope you enjoyed that Groundhog Day, by the way. This was our topic last week before we got the news of Richard's passing. And I bumped it to this week. But if you saw it in all the social media prompts, yes, it was Groundhog Day for today. Oh, kiddos and kidettes, yeah. Look, until we see you again next week, or maybe Saturday, you join us. Stay well. Do all the smart stuff, okay? Stay woke. Check your sources on anything you read online. And most of all, trek well, everybody.